I was a limo driver.
Right.
Yeah.
You were
I met my manager. It's a funny story. My manager used to manage Bob Nelson, and him and Bob Nelson were splitting up. And he came to Boston looking for new talent because he felt like he'd seen everybody in New York. And I was driving limos for Fifth Avenue Limousine, and I had an idea that came to me. I'm like, oh my God, I think this is legit. And so I called up Oliver, who was the manager of the club, and I said, hey man, can I get a 10-minute spot tonight? He was like, yeah, absolutely. And so he hooked me up. I came down and did a guest spot. The bit killed. I had no idea.
Do you know what that bit is?
Oh, I have no idea. No idea what it was. I forgot completely. But it went well. And my manager, who's my manager still, was in the back of the room. I was basically an open micer. I was really only like a couple of years into comedy. And
wow.
I was just starting to get some paid work on the road, like middling for like local acts at like bars in the middle of nowhere. Those kind of gigs. And he said, can I see you tomorrow night? And the thing about it is, like, if I had known he was there, I would not have done that bit, because I do remember the bit was dirty. And back then in the 80s,
yeah, you had to work clean.
You had to work clean. You would never get far in the business if you work dirty. And I was like, God damn it. Like, but that's what I like. I like Dice Clay. I like Sam Kinison. I like Richard Pryor. And I remember this guy told me I swear too much, this host of an open mic night. It was in his mind that you had to get on a sitcom. It was in his mind that you had to get on
That was the path. That's what I was talking about earlier.
He was right to give me the advice career-wise. He just didn't understand that I didn't think that way. I wasn't interested.
Right.
And he goes, I go, but that's what I like. I like Dice Clay. He goes, yeah, but you're not Dice Clay. I go, okay, I'm not. But how do I become me if I can't do what I like?
Right.
And, luckily I didn't listen to him.
But here you are today.
This manager guy, he takes me to a bunch of different places. And then he took me to Fast Eddie's, which is a bar in Huntington, Long Island. And there's this dude named George Gallo who's on stage, who was hilarious. And he had a bit where he would put a banana in his mouth. It was so ridiculous. He was so ridiculous, but he was really funny, like really eccentric. And my manager sees this. He goes, listen, I'm going to get you out of this. You don't have to do this. I mean, it's a dive bar. People are hammered. I go, no. I go, these are my people. I go, get me up there. I go, trust me. And I just went up there and killed, and it was all dirty. And then he was like, okay, I changed my mind. You're going to have to go dirty. It's going to be hard. You're not going to get on television, but that's the real you. That's the real
Well,
you.
there was no pathway. That's what I'm talking about. You created a new pathway.
Well, there was a pathway. It just was a rocky one. It's like it seemed like it had already been taken by the outlaws of comedy, like the Kinisons and those guys. And the new pathway seemed to be sitcoms. Everybody wanted to be Brett Butler and Roseanne and Seinfeld. Everybody wanted to get a sitcom.
Right, but even getting a sitcom, it was one shot on the Tonight Show.
Right.
And you were given a development deal by one of the 3 networks that existed. And if you were lucky enough to partner with the right kind of writer, then you ended up on the air. So it was kind of an easy path.
Yeah, but I had that path too, because I got a development deal from MTV's half-hour comedy hour. I did the half-hour comedy hour, and I managed to be it clean. So I did like a clean 5 minutes, and I got a development deal.
That's the half-hour comedy hour was 5 minutes clean?
Yeah, you didn't do a half hour. It was called the MTV half-hour comedy hour. So it was a half hour and several comedians.
Oh, so you only had to do 5 minutes.
I don't remember what I did, but it wasn't long, and it was clean. Maybe it was 10 at the most, probably. There was those TV shows. They had a ton of them. Like, I remember I saw Rob Schneider on it. I saw Sandler on it. You remember? Did you ever do half-hour comedy hour?
I didn't do the half-hour comedy hour.
You were already too big by then.
Well, I did Evening at the Improv.
Right.
I did Norm Crosby's Comedy Shop.
You were already really big by the time I was an open micer, because when I remember...
What you're saying, 94 is when you started, you said?
88. I started in the Comedy Store in 94.
So 88...
I started stand-up in 88.
So I had finished doing St. Elsewhere in 87.
Wow.
So I was already done. Like I was trying to get a sitcom too.
I forgot about St. Elsewhere.
Oh, I did. The thing that blasted me off, and probably my hottest point in my career, was I did a young comedian special. I did the 6th annual young comedian special on HBO. I got cast by George Carlin's wife, Barbara. May she rest in peace. And it was me, Jerry Seinfeld, Richard Lewis, and Harry Anderson. Well, the guy that was doing the casting didn't like me. Oof. So I went and met at MTM. I went and met Mary Tyler Moore. They did, at Radford. I met for a CBS Radford. I went and met them on a general meeting to maybe get a development deal and get a sitcom, because they were known at the time in 82. That's right after I blasted off. They were known as the sitcom kings of the world. They had the Newhart Show. They had done Mary Tyler Moore. They had all these other shows. And Molly Lapata, who was the casting lady there, I'm sitting in her office. She goes, "Can you act?" I said, I don't know. You know, I'm a comic. I don't know. And she goes, "Read this." And I read this. I don't know what it was, but none of it made sense to me. It was like all this big terminology. She says, "Come down the hall." I went down the hall and I met, now I know it's with Mark Tinker. Read the same thing. I got halfway through. They went, "Thank you." And I went home and my wife asked me, like, "How did it go?" And I went, I didn't get it, whatever it is. There's nothing funny. And then I get a call an hour later to go down and meet with Brandon Tartikoff, who ran NBC. He created all the classic shows of the time, like Cheers and Taxi and all these shows that were at one time, huge hits. I went and met him. I went down there. This is on a Friday, and he had me read that same scene again, and they said, "We'll see you Monday," thinking that, I'm getting a call back for this shitty sitcom. And my agent called me at home and said, "You got it." I said, "What did I get?" And I got this thing called Sane Elsewhere. And apparently it had been shooting for a week, and they wanted to recast some of the parts. I'm recast. And I played this guy, Fiscus, for 6 years on this dramatic series. That's where Denzel Washington came out of. That's where he launched. He didn't have, there's me and Denzel and David Morse. So I walked onto this, and I replaced a guy by the name of David Paymer. Do you know who that is?
No.
I got nominated for an Academy Award for Mr. Saturday Night. I think he played Billy Crystal's brother in Mr. Saturday Night.
Whoa.
That's who I replaced.
That guy's great.
Another Jewy looking guy. It was
He's
Jew for
great,
Jew.
though.
Yeah, he is great. And I was so happy. I always felt guilty, taking somebody's place.